I'm your host, Tim Wood. Welcome to The Natural You, where we'll be interviewing guests from different backgrounds and all walks of life to discuss our relationship with nature and how we can better connect to the natural world, both in us and around us. Nature already has all the answers we need to be healthier and happier in all aspects of our lives. Listen up to hear how to access more of The Natural You. Paula Lavandeira is a mum of one, wife, and senior midwife with over 16 years of experience with specialization in research and diabetes care. She is also a hypnobirthing instructor and is currently completing her master's degree in diabetes care at Warwick University. Paula is an international speaker and women's advocate. She is passionate about natural birth and a more holistic approach to childbirth, where women can overcome their fears and enjoy their birthing experience.
Well, hi everyone. After last week's episode on intimacy and sex, I thought it was only prudent that we got the next speaker on, who is a midwife and an expert in natural childbirth. And we're going to chat to Paula Lavandeira, and she's going to hopefully dispel some myths and give us some truths and hopefully some facts and figures, but also inspire us. And for women and families to have more natural and births that are not filled with fear, but rather with hope and joy. So welcome, Paula.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Could we? As you can hear, Paula's from Spain, and I first, while we're talking about voices, you'll hear accent and you'll hear that I'm very croaky, so I apologize for that. My body's doing a good job of dealing with this cold I've got, so I apologize for that in advance. And if there are a few coughs and sniffles, I apologize. Paula, I've just been reading up on maternal mortality rates, and I read that from 2000 to 2017, there's been a reduction of 38% in maternal mortality. But I also see there's a vast disparity. So for in the UK, there 7 out of 100,000 women might die in childbirth. But in places like in Africa, in Chad, it goes over 1,000 per 100,000. So 1 in 100 women are dying in childbirth. And, historically, we heard that death in childbirth was a very big issue. And now, we see it's still there and you've got these huge disparities. Could you tell us a little bit more about why those disparities exist and how your work as a midwife and interventions have helped reduce those numbers?
Yeah, it's sad that this still happen, despite that we got so many tools to use, but it still happen. And it's the different in the countries depending on how accessible is the system. So whether they can go to the hospitals or how many midwives are available, was the training for them. So it's not just the women, it's not just what is the comorbidities that they have or the illness, it's the whole system. And unfortunately, it's all go back to economics and, the disparity in the countries. So it's always more, the less, unfortunately.
Yeah. And so obviously the poorer countries have less access to resources, fewer visits to people to pick up things earlier. And so the interventions aren't there to help them. But then also see in developed countries. So for example, I said the UK was 7 out of 100,000, whereas the USA was 19, which is almost 3 times the number.
That is because we have a different system. We might complain on how bad the NHS is in UK, but I have to say we're very lucky. In the US, it's more based on your insurance, so how much you can afford. So most of the birth in US is done by obstetrician, by doctors. So it's all very medicalized. You can be a midwife in US, but depending on which area you work, you are allowed to deliver or you are not. So it's very crazy. So same degree, different options depending on where you live and where you work. So
depending on the state.
Yeah, in the state. So it's very difficult for families to really got that. I got good connections. I got a lot of friends in America now. So thank you, Internet. So they ask me, and I always tell them, if you can afford it, please get a midwife for childbirth, because we are the expert on the natural. So the idea is to call the doctors only when it's needed for emergency, not the other way around, because it's proved, the evidence have shown that if it's low risk and we let it go as the body should do, nature should do, shouldn't be a risk. But there's other factors as well affecting this mortality.
So what are the benefits of a natural versus an unnatural, I'm going to use that in inverted commas, unnatural birth or assisted delivery? And so what would categorize something as a natural childbirth? Would Ventouse be considered that, or is it only things like cesareans? How would we differentiate natural versus unnatural?
So natural is the ones who have someone gave birth with no assistance, basically all by themselves, or very little, like only a midwife, some positions, some stuff. Then assisted birth or more medicalized is when we intervene. So it could be by an induction of labor. So we want the lady to go into labor early, with or without reasons, but that's happening. So then they start the cascade of interventions. When you start with one, you open the Pandora box and anything can happen. Is the difference between natural and normal birth. So we stop using the normal birth because, well, in some countries, normal could be, if you go to Brazil, the C-section rate is higher.
Wow.
Because it's the normal for them. They just rather have a C-section than go naturally. And go through the whole process. But natural is more like we allow the body to do it. So because our society is changing, we as women have changed. So we have babies later for whatever reason. It could be because we work longer, we need more status, like we need to have money, a job and things to support
a career,
things. So that might delay when we have babies. So all that can bring other risk factors into the matter. So that's when things can change. So we try always to kind of set up a list, to say, okay, what are your risk factors? We divide it in low risk, medium risk, or high risk. I don't like the word risks because it implies that something bad is happening. It's more the chances. But at some point we need to, in order to offer the options for the moms and the families, we need to start with that.
And then be informed.
Exactly. That's a big issue, being informed correctly. So that's the difference.
And so what about medications? Would that be considered assisted?
Yes. So it's just anything. We need to differentiate between when it's any other illnesses or any other conditions that comes with the pregnancy. But when we're talking about giving birth, any medication that we gave. So as soon as you start with the epidural, for example, that is another choice. I'm happy that exists because some women really need them or want them. You start another risk factor or things that can happen. So if you start with an epidural, you are less mobile, then you might end up having to get some help from the doctors with instrumental. It could be a forceps, it could be a Ventouse, it could end up on C-section. So
as soon as you start with an intervention, like you said, there's an intervention cascade. I remember when we had our kids, reading that even by monitoring the fetal heart rate, that accelerates the intervention because you can hear the baby. And if the mom hears a baby and she's worried, is the heartbeat beating faster, then she gets anxious. And of course, her stress hormones go up and they feed into the baby's thing like, the baby's heart rate's going up. And it's like, actually, it's only because we create an environment of fear or stress that reduces that.
We became from being a laboring woman to a patient. And that's something I try to fight all the time. So a pregnant woman is not ill. It's not a patient. It's just a woman who is bringing life.
Wow.
Is growing life inside. If it comes with other condition, could happen, but that's something that, like life, you can have a cold now. I'm not calling you, you're so ill, or poor you. No, you still yourself.
Yeah.
With a cold.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's really, the words we use are super important. So, And just by labeling them a patient means that pregnancy and childbirth is now a medical condition, let's call it. Whereas if they have preeclampsia or some sort of hypertension, then that is a medical condition, isn't it? And so that would then put them into more the patient category.
Yeah, no, so it's not trying to divide people. It's just we all work together. So we need to give the chance to women to do what is natural for us. It's a cycle of life. So all it's a sexual cycle. If we come from your previous podcast, we start something, we end up with giving birth. We are all mammals. This is what is supposed to happen. And unfortunately, now we're changing. We have less and less babies. So the statistics now shows that we are 4% down compared to last year, for example.
Internationally?
Yeah.
Wow. So it's negative. So it's a negative growth rate.
And something is going there. Yeah, we're reducing the deaths, maternal deaths and infant deaths, but still the numbers go down.
Go down
as well.
It's interesting. So looking at the physical different body types in women, and we said we're all mammals. And I was listening to an author recently, and he was saying, well, the reason for increase in maternal deaths, this is looking way back in history, was that as we went from on all fours and we got onto our hind legs, it changed the shape of our pelvis to allow us to better to walk and run. But the cost was a change in the pelvic shape that would make it more difficult for childbirth. And that was his rationale, which I didn't totally buy.
Neither I.
And it made me think of my mom used to politely say, "Oh, that lady has childbearing hips."
Yeah.
So does the shape or the size of a woman's pelvis make any difference to her ability to give natural childbirth?
It's very difficult unless it's someone who has an accident or some deformities that it shouldn't be, because we are designed for that, and it's a whole process. It's not like the mother is the one who does all the job. It's a teamwork. It's a hormone. So we need to understand this first before we can discuss anything. So it's a teamwork. The baby is also an active part of the birth. It's amazing the way baby bear down the canal, as I call it, so all the pelvis, how it needs to move. And it has to happen, these movements, but it has to go in harmony with the mom. So the problem we have now is, as a society, we change. So firstly, before we used to be just with our community, so we never mix much. So now you can have someone from, South Africa with someone with Chinese origin. So kind of different. So the mix in there might create some issues.
So would that be the size of a baby? You have a really, perhaps the dad's this big strapping African dude, and you got the small Chinese lady, and now she's growing, this baby, and it's probably pretty large compared to if she was having a Chinese husband.
Exactly. But at the same time, the body is very clever. So I always tell my moms, I'm very funny when I talk to patients, so it's more clear. They understand. It's like you're growing a baby, not an elephant. So if your baby's ready, it will deliver early when it's ready. Okay, it's not going to grow increasingly. The problem is now we focus our attention to a handmade system. So someone designed a machine and give you an estimated weight, for the baby, measurements for the baby, and we stuck to that. The estimated weight could be 500 grams up or down. So that's a huge difference between telling a woman your baby is 3.5 kilos. Sorry, I still work on kilos. Let's say 4 kilos or 3 kilos. So it's a huge difference in there. So we need to understand that. And also each woman is different. We are all different. So we're going to deliver in different gestations. That's why you cannot say, it's like telling women, okay, you pass the 40 weeks, the baby spies, it's due by dates, like the food. It's not like that. So when you have...
And that just creates fear, right?
Exactly.
Like,
so
I'm
that's
late.
constantly...
Exactly. I'm early.
Exactly. I remember I feel that myself. As you know, my husband is very tall and I'm not even 5 foot. So then I was thinking, I should think about that before thinking of having babies with you. So my belly was rather big for my size, but it was perfect for me. And I have my boy very early, compared with people were thinking, 38 weeks, but it was normal for my baby. So that's what we always need to consider. So for that, back to what the question you asked me, yeah, it's important for people to understand it's all anatomy, is all working together. So it's not like, oh, you have very straight hips or very small hips, you can have babies. That is not the thing, because as you know very well, our muscles cover, expand. We got the hormones during pregnancy release elastin, so it's gonna stretch the hips so they allow the space to go. But most importantly is the movements. If we allow the moms to move freely, we help him. And I don't know if you know the story, but why we became or started doing the lithotomy position, so lying on your back. That comes back to the history when Louis XIV, I think it was the French king. He was obsessed with childbirth. He had about more than 20 kids. So he asked all the spouse and whatever women he had to go into the bags because he wanted to see. So it wasn't for them, so they started all the problems. So some of the wives died.
And that's, if it's good enough for the king, it's good enough for...
Exactly.
Wow.
So they copy. And then it was when it started the cascade of intervention. So the doctors that they were helping at that point have to invent some instrument to help when they get stuck, because it's no natural position to lie on your back. So if you look at the coccyx, instead of going down like a slide, you're going up the hill. That is unnatural, and that's where it started.
And how much trauma and pain and suffering did that cause for both moms and babies?
So most of the time we're doing it because it's what we're told to do, is what you always see as normal. And that's what you see on TV, is what you see, everywhere. And that's what the society start creating into the new generation, all this fear. So it was a point where giving birth was natural. Yes, of course, people might die. It was all running by midwives. And now all of a sudden it's taken over by doctors. That I'm okay with that when it's an emergency, but that's why it's a profession for that, more natural. So we start taking the power and that freedom for the women. So we are doing the delivery for them. They are not giving birth. We're doing it for them, and that's so sad.
And there's those words again, right? So we're delivering your baby. I remember reading that.
Yeah.
Like someone said, it was an article in the newspaper. The mom couldn't get to the hospital, and the husband delivered it at home.
Yeah.
It's like, well, hang on, the woman gave birth, not the husband was just there.
Exactly.
Maybe
he's not a hero.
Maybe he was there to sort of catch the baby or put it or hold it, but it wasn't. And the whole newspaper article was written about how amazing the dad was because he delivered the baby and not the woman gave birth at home.
You know what they asked me when they found out I'm a midwife? Oh, how many babies have you delivered? It's like, one, my son. And they're like, what? It's like, I don't deliver babies unless it's my own. I help, I assist, but I don't
so
deliver.
Empowering. Just those words are so empowering. And I think that's really a key thing, right? Is that empowerment for women to make the decisions on their own childbirth, and there is so much fear about how painful it's going to be. I used to watch. There was the program. It was on. I can't remember what it's called. It was on TV, and they had the moms come in and they would film them
every minute.
Yes, one born every minute. That's right. Yeah, and I used to watch them come in, and I used to look to my wife and I say to her, she's going to have a Caesar. She's going to have epidural, because you could see they were freaked out. They were terrified. And you could see someone came in who was pretty relaxed and, okay, this is going to be amazing, or maybe a bit apprehensive, but like looking forward to it. Totally different results. And that was just me looking from the armchair.
Yeah.
I mean...
it's what we've been told to do, and that's what you consider natural. And in fact, they don't like, or maybe it's because we are not used to, say in general, but we not learn how to support women when they go and they do their thing. We are always worried that something is going to happen or they are not capable. We want women to be quiet and the good girl just do as I've been told, or I'm not going to tell you that, so you don't follow that. So it's very important to give the right information, but allow them. At the end of the day, it's their families, their lives, their bodies, their choice. Even if I know some people are making, I consider it not the right decision or not the easiest one, I just need to support them and give them what they need.
And that must be quite tough, because you could sort of see like, wow, you could have an amazing birth, but you're choosing this route, which is might be easier for you, but maybe putting you at risk for later, or putting your child at risk, or increasing that intervention cascade. That must be quite a challenge as a professional.
Yeah, it all starts with the way we talk to start with. And you say that. It's like we start and even the women take that language, and I said, they don't allow me to. And when they come to me in the clinic, I said, hold on a minute, how old are you? You know, that's the first question for them to realize how we talk. Luckily, we got guidelines and we got protocols, but they are no law. So this is just to guide, but each person is different, each circumstances is different. So as professionals, we have the duty to do no more harm. We need to give all the information. So you need to give, as equal as you give all the information about induced, got this, that, you need to give the information about what's the risk of having that step.
Yeah.
So that's very important, to give the women that tools to deal with from the beginning. That start before even, for the moment you think of having kids, they need to start there. And it's a whole generation of families that they don't know the natural birth. They never seen it.
Yeah.
You got families, a whole family who say, no, clients coming to me say, in my family, the women can deliver. We can deliver. We all end up on C-section. And I have ladies coming to me to say, I want to work with you because I want to prove them wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Amazing.
But you don't know what's going to be the outcome, but at least you want to try.
Yeah.
You know, it's important. In this country, we're lucky we offer the home birth as a part of the thing. But unfortunately, if there's a problem like pandemic and things, the first thing that close is that service.
And so home births are they encouraged, or are they just allowed, or, you know, or is
No. That is offered, I will say. Depends on the hospitals. Not all of them have the capacity, because you need to have a whole team for that.
Yeah.
And it requires, you know, a lot of structure in there and planning. But yeah, there is a group of people who are very happy having that for different reasons. It could be you're scared of the hospital. Simply, you don't want to you know, you want to try. You want to feel more comfortable. I always will say to be sure that you explore all the possibilities. Don't go with just one.
Yeah. And if you are fearful, then you might think, actually, I want to be near a hospital should something go wrong. And so for that person, that's their normal. That's their good choice.
Exactly. And it's only 2% in the UK that are home birth.
Wow.
So it's not a huge amount, but it could be always transfers because, I don't know, the woman decides at the end, I had enough, I want epidural, or I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always like, something, an emergency or things like that. They are very well prepared, the midwives, for that, but it has to be something the woman wants to do and is well informed.
Certainly, for our kids at the time, water births were very popular. Is that still the case?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I wasn't planned to deliver in the water, and I have a water birth. It was fantastic.
Wow.
So, and it wasn't in my head at all, because I thought, no, I don't like baths. So what's the point? No. I mean, talking to everybody, no. And it was amazing. So I have the possibility, the experience to see both sides, like as a professional.
And to have your plan or your birthing plan, but then be open to being flexible.
That's very important. Yeah, that's very important. And that's something we need to do from the beginning. When you do your first appointment, we take into consideration your family history, your medical history, your own preference, and we can use the whole platform of professionals we go for you to have a better, experience. That's where we start classifying on the risk factors, like high risk or low risk. So look at that. But it's always a way where we can meet in the middle to understand. And when you are open and you explain and the women feel heard and, we listen to them, that's easier. and the spirit, and the partners as well, or whatever comes with you, is important. But yeah, it's options in there. You go the home birth, you go the hospital in labor ward, or you can have what we call the birth center. So it's next to the hospital, it's run by midwives. So it's another option, like in between the two things. And some couples, like myself, I have to make an agreement. So my husband wasn't very keen on having a home birth, and I said, well, I need you on my side. So you know what? We're going to a birth center.
Yeah.
I don't care. I feel like at home. I'm working there. So for me, it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
So, so you have the options there. It's not.
That's brilliant. And so when I was looking, when you gave me some information, you said, you're passionate about natural childbirth and holistic approaches. So what things would you include in holistic approaches? I know when you were pregnant, you came in regularly to get adjusted, and we made sure your pelvis was moving really well. And when Oscar was born, he came in for his check. But other than chiropractic and making sure that the spine and pelvis are lined up and moving well, and the nervous system is functioning really well, what other things can people think about or look into in terms of more holistic approaches?
Well, I would say always to be working on your head, on your mind, on your fears, on your experience in the past. So one thing that is accessible to everybody is, well, maybe everybody knows about that, it's called hypnobirthing. So that hypnobirthing, so it comes from years and years ago. Morgan was a woman who was always working with births, like a midwife type of thing, following around, and her daughter wanted to have a no assisted birth. It was more natural one. So she went into the hypnosis and applied all that into birth. So it was the first method coming out on that way. So what is about hypnobirthing? It was with your mind, it was with your fears, it was with your mindset, and it gives you the tools to be relaxed. So we're helping that part of the body. So recently, since this came, let's say, Louis 14th, everything was focused on the body, and we left aside the rest. And a woman cannot give birth unless she feels safe, unless she feels kind of in an intimate place. It's like not observe all the time, things like that. So if those things don't happen, the hormones, the flow with the hormones won't happen. So it's like the fear circle. So to go into labor, you need oxytocin. Oxytocin is the hormone of love. But if you feel fear, if something is not right for you, if you don't trust the person who is looking after you, if you don't connect with your healthcare provider, if you don't get all the information, if you don't know what's going on, what you're doing is get into a defensive mode. So you are on the flight to fight situation. So what you're doing, you closing that gate of the oxytocin or relaxing, and you open the cortisol, you open the adrenaline, you're defending. It's like what's going on. And that is what most of the cases is happening. So it's going to a point where the woman is on fear. We start using the grown language, saying if you don't do that, your baby might die. Or if we're using that sometimes, that cards that well, not in my presence, I will say. That's the only time I say I'm not allowing this, because I'm an advocate for women. But if that doesn't happen, so with hypnobirthing, what you can get is all these tools. So we're working on your past, and it has to be very personalized. So we use techniques to relax. We use techniques for smells. We're gonna use it's like anchors that you want to use to bring people into a state where they feel the confident and the. I don't like the word control, but yeah, feeling more in control of what's going on, and also help you to connect with your baby, because these days people are so busy doing other things they forgot they're pregnant. They don't really connect. They don't really enjoy that time. They are more living in the past or in the future than not living the present. And it's something I'm very conscious to transmit in every single appointment I go with ladies to how are you feeling today, what do you want to achieve. It's very important to be present. So that's one of the techniques. Is wonderful. It helps you with making decisions. So we got different ways to learn how to ask questions. We also help the partners or whoever the woman decides to be the birth partner, because it could be your mom, it could be your best friend, it could be your husband. Its culture is different. So we allow like people into our lives, people into be our support, caring person. Because when you are in labor, you're very vulnerable. You expose. It's like an animal. So before you have your baby, it comes a moment of like awakeness. And people, these women are aware. It's like looking for one more time before they go and deliver the baby. Like, where am I? I'm safe. Like the animals, we're mammals. You only see these things, all these steps, when you don't intervene, when you allow the woman to do it, and it's beautiful. The problem is we are doing the birth for the woman, so we don't allow those steps. And that's what most of the women feel. They took it from me. I did.
So it's almost instructed rather than supported.
Exactly.
So this is the step we want you to do now. This is what you should be doing now. This is how we'd like you to do this, rather than as a guy, I suspect someone who's experienced and knows what stages are coming next. You can look forward to those little signs, and then you say, okay, I can see this is happening. Might be getting ready for this stage now. Let's look forward to that, and then building those.
Yeah, it's so important. But it's luckily most of the midwives, I will say now, and doulas, and people working and supporting women in labor or in pregnancy are trained for this. So it's quite good because they understand now better how the hormones work and things. And most hospitals now in the UK are offering them as a part of the antenatal care, and I think it's fantastic because it was a battle. I've been doing this for 10 years now. And at the beginning, they look at you like a hippie woman. Oh, here she comes again with her Google things. And it's like, well, no. I remember they always tell me, oh, when you look after the women, they never scream or they never worry, or we have an emergency and they're so calm. It's like, well, I have like 8-12 hours to talk to them, to know each other. So I explain everything. It's nothing, but it's a surprise for them when you spend the time and let it go. So that's what should be in general.
So the midwife is there to really connect with the mom.
Yeah, it's like what you want. It's your day, not mine. So it's very important. And this has been missing.
And so I mean, that sounds amazing. But I also hear in midwifery, I can only speak for what I hear in the UK. It's a very stressful environment for the midwives. And there's I can't remember the exact stats, but I think out of all the kind of healthcare professions, they have the highest dropout rate within the first year than any other ones, and it's huge. So encouraging women into midwifery. So what would you all be? Okay, first question. How do we improve the work situation for midwives? First question. Second question is, why would we ask, I'm saying mostly women, to be midwives? I don't know any men midwives. That's I guess another question. But why would we encourage young women to join the midwifery profession?
Well, I think the problem is we are not well looked after or considered. They always want us to do extra hours, for the responsibility for the time we spend in there, probably not well paid. And that's sad because, you got a lot of things. Life goes, quite expensive these days. Everything goes up, but the salaries. And we work what they expect from us. Most of the time, we don't have the capacity. So you have more ladies to look after, so you cannot do that. So we need to also look for the safety of moms and babies. So, yeah, I think one of the factors, firstly, they should offer more scholarships so they can join the university, because it's quite expensive. If you go through directly, it's 3 years and not much money. It's about $5,000 a year. So either you study, you got support. So most people can cope with that. And then it's also that the type of contract, there should be a bit more thinking into that to offer a bit, something more interesting. So
In what,
instead of
more flexibility?
more flexibility, yeah, because it's a lot of people who are not able to combine family life with, or young family with work. It's impossible. So then you end up giving up because,
I mean, you think of in terms of the responsibility. It's like, what is more precious than your new kid's life? And then you look at that and you look at what you're paying people to do this most valuable and such an important job. And not, I'm sure that it's a total mismatch in terms of the pay and the level of responsibility. And so the people who stay there are those who are the most passionate, but they eventually will get burnt out because of the hours, because of the sacrifices on their families. And that's not fair. And so I think we as parents and parents to be need to be supporting our midwives. And I know in the UK there's a lot of strikes going on in various health sectors and different things, but I think we really should be getting behind our midwives, because they do such an amazing job, and I think worldwide, to bring the most precious things into this world. So I'd encourage all our listeners to think about how we could do that in our local communities. So that's it. And then you say, and for young girls or women who are hearing this and thinking, well, I'd like to support women in childbirth. What kind of tips could you give them, or parents who have kids thinking about that route? What are some of the pros? I've just given you some of the cons. We discussed them. What are some of the pros?
I mean, if you feel supported, if you prepare yourself and understand how the process is, the pregnancy, the changes, how you can help, how the partners, how the other relatives can be present for this person, but present in the sense like, I'm here for you. It's a very precious time for them. So how can you do that? By learning, by understanding what this person wants, what is the best for you, and trying to connect and do it, find the time for that. Helping. I mean, the problem is on society now is that we are very lonely. We don't have that motherhood, that support we had before. Before we are in tribes, we used to have the grandmas and the aunties and things. We don't have that now. And it's very sad.
So the extended families, the communities. I know, your family's in Spain, and our family, Janet and my family, are in South Africa. So
difficult.
Just like that, very, very isolated, and even more reliant on the midwives and the facilities available in the community. So I suppose it's connecting. I know they often put moms together and they form little groups, and you have groups like the NCT and other child pregnancy groups getting involved with that. Those,
it's important.
I think helping
we need
people.
To create, is what it says, that you need a whole village to bring up kids, raise a child. So this is it. So we need to provide that. So if we can prepare that from the beginning, so not waiting until the baby's here, but through pregnancy, to find out what groups are available, what kind of support. If you have a friend who is pregnant, don't bother buying clothes for the baby, just giving services. Maybe they can say to you, like, I want to buy some bonuses for her to come postnatally and have an adjustment, or I can go, and buy a cook for you, or things like that. Is what I think that is more important.
So it's caring. It's caring. Not just for the newborn baby and the mum has had the baby and congratulations. It's the whole pregnancy and nurturing our mothers to be, and to, in that time, and preparing them as you say, the tribe would be nurturing them. So maybe us, the men and the women and our society in general, should be more nurturing and providing that safety and support that women need, rather than kind of referring to these stereotypes like, oh, are you nervous for your pregnancy? Rather
exactly.
than,
It's like,
and like, oh, aren't you worried it's going to be painful? Or, because it's just that automatic thing. I mean, you've talked about the joy involved in some of the hypnobirthing process, and I've even read about blissful birthing experiences. Maybe we should be planting those seeds and using those words.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, it's like you bring him alive. You're growing that baby from a little cell, and it's nothing. I mean, we all been there. We're doing it. Who I am as a professional to take that positive experience from you, I need to support you to make it as happy as possible, as safe as possible. But I'm not the one to tell you what to do in every single step. But at the same time, if you build up that confidence, our bodies are ready to give birth. It's like with someone who I work a lot with moms with infertility problems, because I think they're already damaged in the sense that mentally damaged, because they've been told that the body doesn't work, the body don't work, whatever. No, I'm broken or I'm useless. And then all that pregnancy, they don't really enjoy it, because it thinks like, no, I mean, maybe you need help for getting pregnant, but now your body is doing it. So let's embrace that. Let's do it. Maybe it's the last time you have a baby. Let's go for it and be present. So that's very, very important. And I think the way we use the words, if we start with our kids now, showing them that is natural, that is normal. It's important. It's not about, oh, you breastfeeding or you are bottle feeding. No, we're nurturing our babies. Your choice, as long as you got the information, the choice is yours. But how we make this more natural and more, normal. So it's very, very, very important.
So as we reach the end of our time, Paula, I just want to say thank you so much. And if I said that midwives were agents for empowering women to provide a nurturing and safe pregnancy and birth, would that hit it on the head?
Yeah.
Would you like to add anything to that?
No, I just think we just observing. We are the little person in the corner, just waiting for the mom to call us.
To be brought into this world.
Yeah.
How beautiful. So I just want to thank you for your service and all the lives that you've brought into this. Not that you've brought into this world, that you've supported women as they've brought their children into this world. And I'm sure all our listeners are going to be filled with great gratitude and remember some of their experiences from the past, and hope that we can provide even better experiences for our pregnant moms and how they deliver their babies.
We need babies.
we love them. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
If people want to reach out for you, I'm going to put your details in the comments, in the details at the bottom, and some. I think if you give me some links for the hypnobirthing, and I know you run some courses as well as a trainer, so I'll put those down there. So if there are people who want to learn more about that, they can contact you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Paula.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to The Natural You. I hope you got something useful out of this episode. If you think someone might benefit from hearing this, please share it with them. Lastly, I'd love it if you hit the subscribe button and rate and review this podcast. See you next week.